Hi, welcome back. My name is Barry and this is part of our FinFloor Good to Great series. And today we are tackling one of those critical Achilles heel, or the one element that keeps on going wrong when you're installing a floating floor. And that's all about trims. Yes, this is all about floating floors that have an absolute essential requirement of that little expansion gap around the peripheral of the floor. Imagine if you're a giant and you had to put your hand on the middle of the floor, you need to be able to move that floor backwards and forwards, left and right, by up to around about 10-12 millimeters. Obviously, every floor type has a different requirement from 8 to 15, but that floor needs to be able to freely move. If the floor cannot move, your floor is going to get compromised over a period of time. It might happen quickly, it might take 6 months or a couple of years, but the floor will be compromised, your warranty is compromised. This is something you need to pay attention to. So how do so many professional and DIY enthusiast installers get floors wrong and jeopardize their entire installation? They glue down or fix these transition trims incorrectly. All too often they are nailing, they're gluing, they are getting creative, and trust me, the DIY installers, the professional installers, they get really creative. They want their floors to look beautiful, but they don't necessarily understand the science, or they take chances where they compromise the entire installation and the floors are failing. All too often, myself as an inspector, we go out to job sites and we see it time and time again that these floors are being locked down and the floors cannot move. So what do I mean by floors being locked down? Well, if you have a floating floor means that the floor is not attached to the substrate and it is required to be able to expand and contract freely. Floors are constantly expanding, contracting through fluctuating relative humidity or the moisture in the air, or maybe it's because of the temperature fluctuations where they are expanding, contracting. Whatever the floor type and whatever the reason is that they are expanding, contracting, this is to be expected. All floating floors do this. We need to be able to work around it. So when we install these trims, we need to make sure they are actually fixed either to the vertical walls, as in skirting, scotia, shoe molding, etc., or if it's a transition, that they are actually fixed to the static floor type, like a surrounding cementitious tile, or they are bonded with their little plugs or pins directly into the substrate, and they're not pulling down so hard that they are preventing the surrounding floating floor from actually pushing and pulling or expanding, contracting. While this may sound like common sense, we have so many floors that fail because of this exact reason. When it comes to most trim suppliers like FinFloor, they have a system for locking the trim down to the substrate where it is not bonded to the surrounding floating floor. The floor expansion gap is freely covered and the floor is able to freely move without it being locked down. If you follow the basic science in most flooring instruction manuals, you're going to be okay. But when you start getting creative, this is where the problems occur. We need to remember that when it comes to flooring and flooring installation, what elevates one installation from an average to great, it's all about the detailing. And if we can keep our trims correctly installed, neatly mitered, correctly bonded, we are going to be able to very easily elevate our installation to the next level. One of my favorite tips to do this, especially on the skirting and on the shoe molding, is an instant adhesive. It's an instantaneous application. You apply the solution to one side, you spray the other side, and you immediately bond them. This is absolutely perfect for outside miters where there is no compromise, especially in the wrapped trim category, where you don't necessarily have the opportunity to sand and round off and touch up the trim post-installation. Using hot glue or silicone to glue these trims down can be done, but all too often we use too much of these products and we're applying these products to the wrong areas of the trim, which lock the floors down. They lock the trims to the floors, which in turn compromises the expansion contraction of the product. You can use these products, but you've got to know where to place them. When it comes to an end cap, If you are placing too much product on the underside, like on this trim, it actually oozes forward into the expansion contraction cover strip zone and engages with the floor and locks the floor down. You need to be applying your adhesive to the back of your end cap, all right? And in a controlled volume. If you don't do this, this whole system goes out the window. When it comes to the T-expansions, the T-expansion, you can't just hot glue silicone, put a brick on it while it's curing and hope for the best. Silicones nowadays are really strong and they're going to impede the expansion contraction of these floors. Now I understand you want to get them nice and flat, but if you use the system provided, like with the FinFloor, which has these very easy sliding in pins, which you pre-drill and you just push them down, it will lock the trim down, giving you the visual aesthetic, meeting the science requirement without compromising your whole project. When it comes to skirtings, skirting can be bonded in place, it can be nailed in place. You just need to make sure that it's not applying super direct pressure down onto the floating floor, where it's again going to impede the movement of your floating floor. This is especially relevant when you have maybe pine skirting, which might have a couple of bows in it and you're trying to straighten it out. You need to make sure that when you are forcing that skirting into place, that it's not applying too much downward pressure, locking the floor off. Finally, stair nosing. Stair nosing can be tricky because while the majority of the stair treads, the floating floor is no longer floating because it's been bonded in place, that top tread is still a floating floor because now it's connected to the rest of the landing floor. That floor needs to expand. So once again, you need to install your stair nosing trim where it is locked in place, but still allows the floor on that top step to be able to move backwards and forwards. That takes understanding of the process and understanding of the tools and the product to be able to do that safely and securely. That's all for now, folks. Stay tuned for our next video coming up shortly, where we will get into further tips on how to take your installation from good to great. Found this informative? Please consider comments below, thumbs up, liking, subscribe. I hope you have. Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you in our next video.